So down here we have Part Studio, we have the assembly view, which is where we ended last time. We've got one more step before we do the full scale assembly. So if you left click on the plus sign, we're going to go up here and create a folder. And this is going to be our drawings. Full scale frame. Let's open that up. So now we've got that folder open. Let's left click on the plus sign. Let's go create a drawing. You can create the drawings from different views, but let's do this one at a time. It gives you way more control on the different angles that you want instead of allowing the computer to pick those for you. Okay, left click, okay. So it'll automatically pop up the insert view, but I'm going to show you where that's at. I'm going to close that out for just a sec. Let's go over to Insert View, left click, and we're going to start with Part 1. So we'll go Insert, and it's asking the scale, so left click here. We're going to go, let's go 1/5. Bring that down some. Let's check and see. So let's go Insert, let's go Part 1, and let's see how large that is at 1/5 scale. Yeah, that's pretty large. Now this is 36 inches. I think it's going to be our longest part. There we go. I think that's really all we need. So I'll explain these views. I'm going to left click again, and then I'm going to hit Escape in place. I'm going to bring this one down. I'm going to see if this isometric view will move over here. Yeah, that's perfect. So we'll leave it there. We really don't need a top view. I mean, we could add it. Let's go and I'll show you how. So let's go Insert. Let's change our view orientation to top. And let's place it. Let's just place it here since we have an open space. We're going to need these other spaces for the longer tubes that you see. So this is just a top view. There's going to be a lot of repeated tools that we use, and you only really need to see it once. Left click the dimension tool, but before we open it up and use it, let's look at some of the options. So this is just your normal dimension like we used in Part Studio. We're going to use a 2-point linear dimension, point-to-point linear dimension, line-to-line, 3-point angular dimension, line-to-line angular dimension, radial dimension, and diameter. Oops. Left click on dimension. So I'm going to left click on that point. I'm going to left click down here on this point, and that should be 36 inches. Now let's scroll in. Let's left click on that point, left click on this line, and draw that out. That tells us that that bolt hole, that hole is 3 inches from the edge. There's radial dimension and diameter. Let's do that as well. So there's the actual diameter. Remember, we made these 0.73. They're actually going to be 0.75. They'll be 3/4 inch tubing. Now, there's another way that you can look at the diameter. So let's go back to our dimension tool. We're going to click on this line. We're going to click on that line. And that tells us the diameter as well. And then we can title it front frame tube. Can right click on that, and then I could change that orientation. As long as you put these in one at a time, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I went to bottom view here, notice how it changed the others because we put these in all at one time. Now if I would have stopped, messed with the part, and then added another part after that, that would not have undo. So I just clicked undo to get it back to normal. So what I mean by that is if I insert another part, let's say it is from bottom view, and I click over here, hit enter, and then I right click and I go view orientation and I change that to left. Notice this time it didn't change any of those other parts. I don't need that one, so I'm going to left click to highlight it and delete it. But if you just put these in one after another, or you allow the program to select your parts, you'll run into that issue where you can't change the orientation. because it kind of chose those for you. And unless you add it, stop, make adjustments to it, and then add another part like I just did, it will change the orientation of the rest of it. So I'm going to right click down here, and I'm going to rename that. And this is going to be part 1 front frame tube. And that's going to be within this drawings tab. So I'm going to go back to the home so you can kind of see. So you notice the one that I just created doesn't show up down here. It's because it's in this folder. When I use another tool, I'll show you those steps. I'm going to use the angular dimension. So line to line angular dimension. Left click on that. Alright, so I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to change this one, the view, to isometric. And then we're going to move this over. And then we're going to get our angles on this. So we're going to go up here, angular dimension, click on this line, click on that one. That gives us our angle for the top part of that tube. And let's do the same thing here. We'll get our angle here. Right there, that looks good. And let's change our scale again because it's automatically trying to go to 1/5. Let's go to 1/8. Let's bring this over. Let's just go ahead and insert it, and then we'll change the orientation. We'll just keep this same view. But now let's go up here and do point to point. We haven't done that yet. Point to line. Let's go to 2 linear points. That's useful with bolt holes, but we can use it here as well. So we'll get the distance from that part to there, from this part to here. Let's go from here to where that bend starts, from this line to here. And let's go back to our normal dimension. We'll just click on this one, click on that, just showing the diameter of the tube. We're going to do 1/5 scale. We're going to insert the top hoop segment. It's going to be fairly large, but we really only need one of these because we can get most of our measurements off just this one. I'm going to hit escape. Then I'm going to go up here and we're going to go to radial dimension. Here we're going to select this inner line. That's the radial dimension from that point. I mean, remember it was 28. And if we go to the outside of it, that's with that 3/4 inch, or actually that's a 1/2 inch tube. So right in the center of that would be 28 inches. Come up and do the diameter, right? And it's telling us this will be 55 inches in diameter. So I'm going to select this outer line. You notice a little bit more, mainly because we have that 1/2 inch difference from inner to the outer portion. You can add here, that might be useful, is just the diameter of that tube, showing that it's 0.48. It's actually going to be a 1/2 inch in diameter. We did that so that the 3D model could fit together. This is our swing arm. This is where the radius of the bend and the angles are going to be really useful. So I'm going to scroll in here and go up here and select, let's just stick with what we got, radial dimension. We'll click on that. It kind of gives us an idea of the radius of the bend there. We'll do that for each one of the bends. Now let's go to angular, let's go line to line angular dimension to kind of get the angles of these. See what we're looking at here. That'll make it easier for us to kind of replicate these parts. There, that's the one I want right there. I'm going to bring that down. And then if we wanted to see what the diameter of the tube was, we could just click on these two here. That would tell us the diameter of the tube. Let's use some of these other points. Let's go 2-point linear dimension. Click here to there. Tells us the distance we had that bolt hole from the edge. Right there, that one was 1/2 inch. And I think that's good enough. Let's go in and do 2-point linear dimension. Let's click on that. to that point there, and that's 1 inch. We'll do all of these bolt holes first using this tool. We'll do the same thing there. Good. Dimension, just the dimension tool. Let's click here and here. There we go. And we'll get the halfway point. So we can kind of see where that center point circle was. And we can get the diameter by coming up here and clicking these two lines, if I can hover over it. There we go, 1 inch in diameter. Sections that has a angle to it, so we're going to go ahead and click here and here. We'll get our angle, move that out, come over. We can look at the dimension tool for the inner diameter, and we'll go in here, select that one. Really just that angle we needed, and then we can come up. We can use just the regular dimension tool or the point to point. We'll get the distance for these holes that we're going to use like drill guides. Is the distance here between this tube and that. So that was 5 inches. Insert front view, hit escape, and let's put those dimensions here so that we don't have too many on one drawing, because it gets really messy when that happens. Alright, that should be good enough to do point to point. So let's go up here and go 2-point linear dimensions. There's our point there, there's the other point. So that's when it becomes useful, so when you have problems finding an area to select using the regular dimension here. We're going to go line to line angular dimension, but we want to select this one to this one. There we go. And that gives us our angle, or we could come across to the other side and go here. I think that's the one we originally used. Let's hit escape. I'm going to delete this one because I think this is our best angle. That's what we used when we first created it. Like, we're not going to print it, but we might want to know what the diameter, what the radius is, especially if we were going to go back and change anything. We just wanted a quick reference. Let's go ahead and put it in. So we're going to go part 20. We can't go 1-to-1. We're going to bring this down pretty small because it is a large. Let's go 1/10 its original size. That looks like that'll fit in there. Let's hit escape. So let's go up here and let's go diameter. So our inner diameter, 55 of the hoop. This will do the outer diameter, 56. And so this is a 0.48 inch hoop as we drew it. It's really going to be a 1/2 inch. So we're looking at 56 inches. If we wanted radius from the inner part, there's our radius to that portion. If we go to the outer part of the hoop, there it is there. We'll just leave those next to each other. And then if we wanted to get the dimension of the tube, like what did we create it in, it's really going to be a 1/2 inch, but at least that gives us the dimension there. And that's it. So those are all of our parts. They're all going to be right here when we get ready to print. The only thing I would add to this that we haven't covered is when we get ready to print these off, you'll right click, hit export, and then PDF, and then it'll export it as a PDF. You can do that for all of these, and then print them off, put them in a folder, so when you're working on your parts, if you need some sort of dimensions, get a rough idea of what it is in the computer, but you don't want to have to go back to the computer, especially if you're working out in the shop. You can use this as a quick reference, and you can also write on it. So if you need to go back and change the original settings, you can write in what you think it should be and then use these.